Hey everyone, it's Dr. B. Likely. Where have I been? Where have I been? Life has been busy. There's just been so much going on. And I really just realized that every time I think to record a YouTube video, I didn't have my ring light set up. I didn't have my room set up, the backdrop, everything. And so I just figured I was just going to make this channel a little bit more casual. Of course, I'm still the RA Warrior chiropractor, but y'all knew me beforehand as RA Warrior Randy. And I think that we're just gonna make it casual, as if we're just having a conversation. And so, as you can tell by the title of this video, I am going to talk about my pregnancy. I had posted on my RA account that I was pregnant, and also I'd posted beforehand about the struggles that we had kind of leading up to pregnancy. And so I figured that I would go ahead and just make this video, talk about all of it, so that it's just everyone knows, because I know that there have been a lot of questions. And when I was looking into kind of my pregnancy journey, I didn't see many pregnancy journeys that looked like mine, or of people that were going through what I was going through. So I, of course, just always want to be open and honest with y'all. And so, yeah, we're gonna go ahead and share it. I will give a disclaimer that there will be the talk of loss kind of at the beginning of this video. So that's just a heads up. So kind of leading up to our pregnancy journey in November of 2022, that's when me and my husband kind of had the conversation of wanting to expand our family and see where it would go. And I did get pregnant in January of 2023, and so everything was, great, exciting. We were super excited, and this whole time I was taking Humira, and my RA was pretty well controlled and pretty well managed, and I was in remission. So we got pregnant in January, and in March we actually had found out we had a miscarriage before I had my first ultrasound. And so that was definitely devastating and was very, very tough. And it was just a hard season to kind of walk through at that moment. But we then just picked everything back up. It took me a really, really long time to heal. It took me about 2 months, honestly, to completely heal. So it was a really long and drawn out process. Then after that, we did get pregnant again in June, but it was a chemical pregnancy. And so we lost that one very, very early on. And at that point, I started to wonder what was going on. Because before pregnancy, I was working out, I was staying active, I was doing a lot of pre-pregnancy work to prepare my body for pregnancy. So I knew that I was doing things on my end, but I was just kind of wondering, what is going on? There has to be something else. So the chiropractor in me started doing a bunch of research to kind of see if there was something that I was missing. And I came across that people with rheumatoid arthritis, it's very common. Of course, we know to have other autoimmune illnesses, but it's also very common to have something called antiphospholipid syndrome. And antiphospholipid syndrome is where your body creates antibodies that causes your blood to clot. So you can imagine that if your blood is clotting, blood is not able to travel to the baby properly when they're in utero, and that then can cause miscarriages. And so I actually had conveniently had to see my rheumatologist in July, and so I brought up all of this to her. And typically they will not test you for antiphospholipid syndrome until it had been 3 losses. But I told her I'm not gonna sit through having another one, because the first one was very hard, the second one was very hard, and I just didn't want to have to go through a third time just to then start the testing. So luckily she went ahead and actually ran the blood test right then and there. This was the end of July. She ran the blood test and just checked everything out, and then I actually got the results from the blood test. It takes a week to get the results. So then once the blood test came in, it actually showed up as positive for antiphospholipid antibodies. And I then also found out in the course of all of that time that I was pregnant again. So of course, super excited to be pregnant again, but now knowing that, okay, this antiphospholipid antibodies that tested positive, what do we do? Because I don't want to lose this pregnancy also. So She then referred me. I had to go to maternal fetal medicine because there are certain medications that you will take with antiphospholipid syndrome. I personally had to take Lovenox. I took a 40 milligram injection every single day during pregnancy, and also every single day 6 weeks postpartum. So I forgot how the number of how many shots that was, but it was a lot of shots, over 200 shots that I had to do every single day. And if you've ever taken that medicine, it burns. It is not a fun medicine. You will bruise. So my stomach was completely bruised. My thighs were completely bruised. There were nights where I just cried because I did not want to take the shot, but I knew that I had to. And so that was tough. But once I basically got to the third trimester, I feel like I just became numb to them and just didn't even care anymore. And it became a little bit easier to then take those shots. And I still, during pregnancy, was still taking the Humira, and I was taking that once a week, as well as the Lovenox injections once a day. I also took baby aspirin every single day. I started baby aspirin when I found out I was pregnant as well. And so that in conjunction with the Lovenox were the two medicines that were being used to help with the antiphospholipid antibodies. Then also with antiphospholipid syndrome, what you have to do is you're considered high risk. And so I saw my maternal fetal medicine doc after I had my anatomy scan at 20 weeks. I then would have a growth scan every 4 weeks to make sure that baby was growing according to plan and was following the ideal curve in terms of growth, because antiphospholipid syndrome can have an effect on their growth. Then I also, starting at 32 weeks, I had to have 2 non-stress tests or NSTs every single week, and I also had to have an ultrasound every single week. That was to check fluid levels. In terms of the ultrasound, was to check fluid levels, and then the NSTs were just to check the baby's heart rate, looking for accelerations and decelerations, making sure that she wasn't under any stress and she was, again, growing, maturing, everything was going according to plan. Thankfully, everything was going according to plan. There's only one time on February 29th that her heart rate was very, very high. And I freaked out. They had to admit me into the hospital. Now, this was February 29th, and she wasn't due until late April. So she was way ahead of schedule if she was going to come that day. And I just was freaking out, but they sent me to the hospital. I had to be monitored for about an hour, and then everything was good, went according to plan. And I was able to then just stay pregnant and carry her to term. So I would say, really, there were a lot of things that went into my pregnancy, like before pregnancy, in terms of how I prepared my body physically. So in terms of working out, mobility, strength training, what all of that looked like. And then in terms of once I was pregnant, the maintenance of it became, I still was able to work out and I did all of those things up until delivery. But the main maintenance became making sure I was taking the Lovenox and the baby aspirin, and drinking plenty of water and going to all of my doctor's appointments. So now that we have had baby girl, she's healthy, everything was great. There were no complications. Everything was amazing. I will get tested again in August, so about in a week or in some change. I'll get tested again for the antiphospholipid antibodies, just to see how positive they are, or if they are now negative. I hope that they're now negative, so for future pregnancies, I don't have to do all of that because it was very, very taxing. But we will see what those results come back in about, I guess I'll find out in about 3-ish weeks by the time I get the testing and everything done. So that was really the journey to getting and staying pregnant, because I obviously had no issues getting pregnant those first 2 times, but it was the matter of staying pregnant. So yeah, we now have a healthy baby girl. She is just the light of our world, and yeah, I guess that's really it. There isn't really much else or meat and potatoes. I would say that it was just a blood test that had to be done. I think it was like 3 tests in one to check for antiphospholipid syndrome. And it wasn't something that was initially on my radar when we had those 2 losses. So I am glad that we went ahead, got those tests done, because then we were able to find out what it was. So yeah, if there's any questions that y'all have in regards to pregnancy, pre-pregnancy, just the whole nine, of course, I cannot answer specific questions. Sometimes I have to be careful just because of my medical license, but I am available to help. I also can help with virtual appointments as well. And so yeah, I can just be that resource for y'all. So of course, if y'all have any questions, send me an email, DM me on Instagram. And as always, I hope y'all have a great rest of y'all's day. Bye.